Today I'm going to show you guys how to make this 3-tiered cedar herb stand. This is one of my favorite projects to do during the springtime. Here's a little shot of some of the other planters I build. I build quite a few during the spring. And here are some prices at the big box store the day I went, along with some pickets. And then a shot of the lumber I brought home. Alright, so we're going to make this cedar herb stand. So we have one 5/4 by 6 by 12, and then there's two 5/4 by 4 by 12s. This is going to give me extra, so we'll see at the end of the build how much extra I have. And then we have 2, 4, 6, 8 cedar pickets. I'm going to make it 3 foot wide, so I'm going to get basically two lengths out of each board, and then we'll put that together. I've got 2 extra there for sides and any mishaps, but again, we'll see how much we use. So this total was $102, which is up. This used to cost about $75 to build the last couple years, but of course with lumber prices, it's understandable. So I'm not going to complain about it. It's 25 bucks. So we're going to build this. We'll start with cutting a 22.5 degree on one end, and then we'll measure over from there. Remember, I'm building this planter about 4 foot tall. It could be 2 foot tall, 3 foot tall, so that is up to you. So when I'm making these, I make these in different heights, but usually I try and make them 40, 46, 48 inches. And if I buy a 12-foot piece of 5/4, I will usually cut the legs that I need, and then whatever the remaining piece is, I simply try and cut it in half, and then I use those for the additional support legs. Alright, so what we ended up with is I made 2 legs at 43 inches and 2 legs at 26 inches. This will be the profile of the planter. So this leg, if it was shorter, you would just slide it forward, and if it was longer, you would slide it back. Now that I've got the legs cut, we're going to go ahead and cut the shelves. There's going to be 4 shelves because this will be a 4-tiered cedar planter. I'm going to cut them at 36 inches a piece and cut 4 of them. So I've got a stop block there attached at 36 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and cut those 4 up. This is just a short shot of the pieces we got cut so far. Alright, so we're going to use pickets to make the actual boxes. So I'm getting ready to cut these pickets up, and here you can see that I cut the dog ears off. I don't need the full length of the 6-foot board. Here I'm talking about how I'm going to cut a front, a back, and a bottom, and it's going to be held together with side end caps. So we cut the shelves at 36 inches, and we want to build the boxes just a little shy so they fit on the shelf no problem. We're going to mark 36, and then we're going to mark the width of 2 of the boards, which is 5/8. And then here I've got a little line giving myself 1/8 of an inch play. So I'm going to take off 5/8 times 2 plus 1/8. I'm going to cut the lengths at 34 5/8. So I'm going to set my block, stop block, and I'm going to cut all my pieces at 34 5/8. What you're going to start with is a 22.5 degree angle cut on the picket, and then with one of your cutoffs, or if you don't have a cutoff, you're going to want to make a cutoff. I've I've got a couple. You're gonna line up this corner and you're gonna mark it up here. Let's see if I can find a pin. There we go. That's a little better. So you're gonna mark that distance. Now, the boards we just cut, the front is gonna sit in this way, so the bottom is gonna sit in this way. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna mark the outside distance, which is approximately 5/8. And then you're gonna mark from that 5/8 line to the other side the width of the board, which should be approximately 5.5. Then go ahead and mark, if you set this on the edge there, and then I'm gonna mark the width of the board, which again is approximately 5/8. And then I'm gonna take this over the saw and I'm gonna cut this off at 22.5 degrees. All right. Good thing is once you cut the first one, it becomes a pattern for all the rest. So then we're gonna set our board, our sideboard up against this edge and mark the top. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this little, kind of like a dog ear on the top side of this board. All right, so the saw is currently at 22.5 degrees. We're gonna move it back to 0. And then we're gonna set this back side up against the fence and we're gonna cut straight through that line. And that's it. So now we're gonna make 2 for each box. Again, mine's a 4-tiered herb garden, so I'm gonna make 8 of these. I just usually make a pattern, and then I'm gonna use this pattern to cut the rest. So here I am with my pattern. Go in and line it up, make a cut, flip the board over, make a cut, and so forth. And here I'm gonna speed it up a little more. All right, so now we got all the pieces left. I'm sorry, all the pieces cut. There is 1 piece left to cut, which I usually do at the very end. I don't know why, but I'll show you that when we're at that point. So we have our 4 shelves, our 2 back legs, our 2 front legs, and 1, 2, 3, 4 complete boxes. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna measure and pre-drill the holes on the legs for the shelves. And then we're gonna go ahead and put that together. And then we're gonna attach the legs so it'll be freestanding. We'll build the boxes and then we'll put the boxes onto the shelves and screw them down. So next, we're gonna pre-drill the holes for the stand. All right, so I cut this off camera, a template that I like to use to mark where when you stand this up, it's going to be standing at an angle, and you kind of just decide whether or not you're going to have, whether you want the shelf sitting on the front edge or against the back edge and with a little bit of a lip. I always try and plan for one and end up making it the opposite. It seems like I always mess up, but it really doesn't matter. They look good either way. Here I'm standing one of the shelves up, and I'm just talking about where I'm going to mark for the screws. You have 3.5 inches is how wide the board is, so you want to make sure you get 2 screws at least within that 3.5 inches. So I've got this little square here. This is a 1 inch thick, so when I hold it against the edge, I know I'm marking 1 inch away from the edge. And then I'm just marking a second screw hole further away from there. Just a little side note, I'm drilling them from the inside as opposed to marking the outside and drilling in. This just allows me to be lazy. Doesn't matter what angle I screw the screws in from the outside, I can see that they're going to hit the center of the board. So yeah, you can mark the outside. It really doesn't matter. I've just found that this makes it simple for me to build them a little quicker. Now that we got everything pre-drilled, here I am getting ready to start assembling it. I've got some screws set aside that I drop on the floor here in a second, and all I'm going to do is line the shelf up with the 2 lines that I've drawn, and I stick a screw through the end just far enough that it sticks out the other side. That helps keep the board in place, and attach screw. You can swivel it back and forth if you've got to adjust anything until you get the second screw in there. So here I'm putting 1 screw in each of the top holes. Again, that'll allow me to hold it in place. Put the second screw in and then repeat. And there's where the screws went off the table. Here I took a little screenshot. This really is simple. It took me about 6 minutes to attach the shelves to the legs here. Alright, so I'm going to attach the legs, and this is where having a good table comes in handy. Up until this point, the planter itself is reversible. Here you've got the shelves on the front. If you flip it over, here you've got the shelves on the back. So either one is just fine. Somehow the head of the clamp is not attached, and it just fell off. But I'm going to go ahead and clamp this down to my table. That way I can take my hands off of it. All right, I'm gonna attach these legs. Now this is the back support leg, and I want it flush, which is good for being on the table. And I'm just gonna slide it back until it sits flush with the front and back in. When you get that far, stick a clamp on there to hold it temporarily while you can get some screws in it. I'm gonna go over to the other side. And if your table's fairly level, when you get it screwed together and put it on the ground, you should have a really good chance that it's not going to be wobbly. If it is, it's okay. You'll be able to, you can screw one screw in and swivel it and then reattach the two back here. I'm going to probably put 3 or 4 screws in this, but let me get this screwed. All right, so now you can start to see it take shape. The last piece that will have to be cut, you'll see it here shortly, will be a support bar that goes from the back leg to back leg. I just come up here and measure from the inside to inside, and then whatever that is, I'm gonna cut it. It could be a 2x4, it could be pressure treated, it could be another piece of the 5/4. I really try and look around. I mean, I've got scrap everywhere. I've got stuff inside under my tent, and I've got stuff on the side of the house. So I purchased enough wood to, I've used everything except for part of that picket and the second 12-footer. So it's gonna be roughly 30, probably like 38 inches or something like that. So I may cut that up, but I may not. So anyhow, I'm gonna put this on the ground and I'm gonna start assembling the boxes. All right, so these are the boxes that we're going to attempt to build, I guess. I'm gonna build one off camera real quick. It's been a year since, I do this every spring, so it's been a year since I built these. This is my first one this year. But I pre-drilled, and you just have to remember that these are only 5/8 thick, so you don't have, there's not really a lot of margin for error. You can see right there, I had the very first screw I drilled, it went right through the side. So I just flipped the board around to the other side so I could get a screw in there and not hit the same hole, but the rest of the screws went really well. So if you need to, we're gonna go ahead and mark some lines so you make sure that you stay on the inside of the line, and then we'll put the board with the lines on the inside so you can't see them. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna mark up the sides here, and then we're gonna pre-drill. So we're gonna go ahead and let's go ahead and mark these up. Just take one of the boards, put it up flush with the other side, and trace a line. And if we do that on the 3 sides, then we know we got to stay within that. I'm going to build one box with you, and then I'm going to speed it. So it is a little tricky. I'm going to put my countersunk sides on the outside, and I'm going to try and hold it flush up against, flat up against the table. And if I've done a good job, we won't blow out the side of it with the screw. And don't drill too hard. Do the other side. Make sure it's pointing the right way, not backwards. Make sure you got the right side pointed that way. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. And it just because it wants to fly off the other side. Stuff. And then this board on the bottom, you can just drop it in. Around. And that's one done. All right, so I got the boxes done. Let's go ahead and throw this together. Let me make sure that's in the frame. Yeah, it is. Okay, so we've got our boxes, and if everything goes good, they fit in between. All right, so now the boxes can slide forward or back depending on where you want them to sit. You know, assuming the more sun, the better. You know, you may want the top one further back and then the lower ones further out. I don't particularly care. I'm gonna probably line it up with the leg. Just make them kind of all flush and then make them stick out forward as far as possible. What I do here is I move it forward and I put a screw going down into the shelf. Come over and line this side up. So I'll do that going all the way down, and then I also screw one from the side of the box into the leg. All right, so I'm going to do that going all the way down. All right, so we're just about done. I'm gonna cut one more piece of wood across the back. I'm gonna run around the house and see what I got. I'm gonna put that piece on, and then I'm gonna come back and we'll talk for a sec. All right, so this is 38 inches is what that piece measures. And I just got it measured up. For this, I just measured up 10 inches. It could go anywhere. I've got the clamps holding it there. I just eyeballed 2 holes. I've got my mark right there. So I'm gonna line this guy up with the edge, and then I'm gonna come in here and shoot 2 screws in there. So this is the fence I built last spring or last summer. I still have 1 piece of wood to put there and 2 here, 1 on bottom and 1 there. But anyhow, that's what that looks like. So these are the planters that I've got. These are kind of what I build every year. This is 2x4. That's probably the most popular style. Most popular size, and then I build them bigger and smaller. Anyhow, here's the herb stand. And someone asked me last year to if I could put a brace. So I normally don't, that's not there. But I went ahead and put one in this year to try it out. I'm not so fond of the way it looks, but it's definitely useful. This is mine, my personal one, waiting to get planted. And you can see, I'll show you the side of it. See, I don't have a brace, so. But still got some green onions in there. Get my lettuce and stuff going. And this thing was blooming last year like crazy.